Hey, Mike here. We've seen Jacob's devotion to God. Now let's look at his family. We've seen the scriptures. So Jacob moved on and came to the land of the eastern people. He saw there in the field a well with 3 flocks of sheep lying beside it, because the flocks were well watered from that well. A well is a big deal back then, and I suspect they will be again in the future, given current events. Now a large stone covered the mouth of the well. When all the flocks had gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone over the mouth of the well and water the sheep. Then they would put the stone back in place over the well's mouth. That's just good basic security. You don't want anyone to fill in your well, or any animals fall in it, or anyone to literally or figuratively poison it. But who are these guys? Jacob asked them, "My brothers, where are you from?" They replied, "We're from Haran." So he asked them, "Do you know Laban, the grandson of Nahor?" "We know him," they said. "Is he well?" Jacob asked. They replied, "He is well. Now look, here comes his daughter Rachel with the sheep." Then Jacob said, "Since it is still the middle of the day, it is not yet time for the flocks to be gathered. You should water the sheep and then go and let them graze some more." "We can't," they said. "Until all the flocks are gathered and the stone is rolled off the mouth of the well, then we water the sheep." While Jacob was still speaking with them, Rachel arrived with her father's sheep, for she was tending them. When Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of his uncle Laban, and the sheep of his uncle Laban, he went over there and rolled off the stone off the mouth of the well and watered the sheep with his uncle Laban. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and began to weep loudly. And that requires a little bit of explanation. When Jacob explained to Rachel that he was a relative of her father and the son of Rebekah, she ran and told her father. When Laban heard about the news about Jacob, his sister's son, he rushed out to meet him. He embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. Jacob told Laban that that's how he was related to him. Then Jacob said to him, "You are indeed my own flesh and blood." So Jacob stayed with him for 1 month. This seems kind of weird in our culture, but this would have been totally normal in ancient, Hebrew culture at the time. Then Laban said to Jacob, "You should work for me for nothing because you're my relative. Tell me what your wages should be." Many people would ask for money, but Jacob did not. He knows what he wants. Now Laban had 2 daughters. The older one was named Leah, and the younger one was Rachel. Leah's eyes were tender, but Rachel had a lovely figure and beautiful appearance. Since Jacob had fallen in love with Rachel, he said, "I will serve you 7 years in exchange for your younger daughter Rachel." I know what you're thinking, but at this time, the human genome had not degraded that much yet, like it has now, and cousin marriage really wasn't an issue at the time. In fact, in many ancient cultures, it was preferred at the time. Laban replied, "I'll give her to you. I'd rather give her to you than any other man. Stay with me." So Jacob worked for 7 years to acquire Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days to him because his love for her was so great. Finally, Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife, for the time of my service is up. I want to have marital relations with her." Right to the point. At least he's not wasting any time. Continuing on, the Bible reads, "So Laban invited all the people of that place and prepared for a feast. In the evening he brought his daughter Leah to Jacob, and Jacob had marital relations with her. Laban gave his female servant Zilpah to his daughter Leah to be her servant. In the morning, Jacob discovered it was Leah." You've already pointed out that they look different. And you know both of these women as you've lived there for 7 full years. How much wine did he drink at that party? So Jacob said to Laban, "What in the world have you done to me? Don't I work for you in exchange for Rachel? You have tricked me. It's a valid concern he had. It is not our custom here, Laban replied, to give the younger daughter in marriage before the firstborn. Complete my older daughter's bridal week, and then we will give you the younger one too, in exchange for 7 more years of work. Come on, that's just wrong, Laban. You know that wasn't the deal. That's your uncle. How do you know this was... how did you not know this was part of their culture? They were literally uncle and nephew. They should both know each other's culture pretty well. Jacob did as Laban said. When Jacob completed Leah's bridal week, Laban gave him his daughter Rachel to be a wife. Laban gave his female servant Bilhah to his servant Rachel to be her servant. Jacob had marital relations with Rachel as well. Keep in mind that the Bible records instances of polygamy, but it does not condone it, as you'll see. Back to the text. He loved Rachel more than Leah. So he worked for Laban for 7 more years, and when the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, he enabled her to become pregnant while Rachel remained childless. So Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Reuben, for she said, "The Lord has looked on me with pity and my oppressed condition. Surely my husband will love me now." To be fair, he never did want her. He was tricked into marrying her by her father, but he still should have treated her better. She didn't ask for this either. She became pregnant again and had another son. She said, "Because the Lord heard that I was unloved, he gave me this one also." She named him Simon, and then she became pregnant again and had another son. She said, "Now this time he will show me some affection, because I have given birth to 3 sons." That is why she named him Levi. She became pregnant again and had another son, and said, "This time I praise the Lord." This is why she named him Judah. Then she stopped having children. Wow. Both of these people know where babies come from. 4 in a row. I've got 3. That's a lot. When Rachel saw that she could not give Jacob children, she became jealous of her sister and said to Jacob, "Give me children or I'll die." Jacob became furious with Rachel and exclaimed, "Am I in place of God who has kept you from having children?" She replied, "Here is my servant Bilhah. Have relations with her so that she can bear children for me, and I can have a family through her." They just dealt with this a few chapters ago. He obviously should say no, but as you'll see, he clearly didn't learn from his parents. So Rachel gave her servant Bilhah as a wife, and Jacob had relations with her. Bilhah became pregnant and gave a son named Jacob, or gave Jacob a son. Then Rachel said, "God has vindicated me. He has responded to my prayer and given me a son." That is why she named him Dan. That's one way to interpret the events, I guess. Did God really give them a son, or did this woman's impatience lead to her bringing another woman into the mix? That will not end well. Just let God do his thing. He takes his time, but he does it right. Anyway, Bilhah, Rachel's servant, became pregnant again and gave Jacob another son. Then Rachel said, "I have fought a desperate struggle and have won." So she named him Naphtali. Still sleep with your wife's servant, I see. When Leah saw she had stopped having children, she gave her servant Zilpah to Jacob as a wife. That's the 4th woman if you're keeping count. Soon, Leah's servant Zilpah gave Jacob a son, and Leah said, "How fortunate." So she named him Gad. And Leah's servant Zilpah gave Jacob another son. Leah said, "How happy am I? For women will call me happy." So she named him Asher. To anyone who does not know this, kids are a lot of work. I've got 3. Thankfully, all through 1. But still, 3 kids is a ton of work. Work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week to feed them. I've lost count of how many kids Jacob has now, so I can't imagine what that must be like. He needs to slow down. At the time of the wheat harvest, Reuben went out and found some mandrake plants in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Rachel said to Leah, "Give me some of your son's mandrakes." But Leah replied, "Wasn't it enough you've taken away my husband? Would you also take away my son's mandrakes too?" By modern standards, this would basically just be a soap opera at this point. Also, I don't know what mandrakes are. "Alright," Rachel said. "He may sleep with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes." Okay, so Rachel's pimping out her son? Or servant, whatever. So, in ancient cultures, this kind of stuff would have been considered fairly acceptable. It was an accepted practice. In modern culture, it just seems really weird. So anyway, let's get back to it. "Alright," Rachel said. "He may sleep with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes." When Jacob came in from the fields that evening, Leah went out and met him and said, "You must sleep with me because I've paid for your services with my son's mandrakes." Well, now he is used as a currency between his wives for goods. So I'm pretty sure they, in today's culture, would be arrested for this. Anyway, that's crazy. So he had relations with her that night. Of course he did. God paid attention to Leah. She became pregnant and gave Jacob a son for the 5th time. Then Leah said, "God has granted me a reward because I gave my servant to my husband as a wife." So she named him Issachar. Leah became pregnant again and gave Jacob a son for the 6th time, and Leah said, "God has given me a good gift. Now my husband will honor me because I have given him 6 sons." So she named him Zebulun. After that, she gave birth to a daughter named Dinah. Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know this, babies poop a lot. Nowadays we use diapers, and they are expensive. Imagine paying for diapers for 13 children. Then baby formula. That is over $20 every 2 to 3 days for each child. They would be bankrupt by now if that was today. But this was 3,700 years ago, and it was a different time. Moving on. Then God took note of Rachel. He paid attention to her and enabled her to become pregnant because she became pregnant and gave a son. Then she said, "God has taken away my shame." She named him Joseph, saying, "May the Lord give me yet another son." This is her first, right? Yeah, I think so. Either way, congratulations there. So, he is on his 14th child with a total of 4 women. This is not going to end well. Everyone in the story is making terrible choices. Yeah, everybody's making terrible choices in there, all 4 of them. You know there's going to be some problems come up amongst the children involved. This is a modern day soap opera almost, unfortunately. And I hope this is not playing out in modern day, because this is a totally different time. But back then they had a saying, "Children like arrows, blessed is he whose quiver is full of them." But that is still going to be a lot of work, a lot of stress, and a lot of strain on everybody involved. So, good luck to Jacob, and yeah, that's going to be all for this video. The next video, so that is